Hi and welcome to a new episode of the Co-Powered podcast. In this episode, we've got a focus on the next generation of talent that is driving Zelestra forward. I'm joined today by Álvaro Zarauz and also with Paula Santos. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
We're looking forward to learning more about both of you and the jobs that you do and the roles that you have at Zelestra. So let's start with you, Paula. In a couple of sentences, explain to me what your role is, what your title is, and then tell me what does a normal day look like for you.
Okay, so I work in the M&A team, which stands for Mergers and Acquisitions. In short, what we are focused on is trying to identify and analyze inorganic growth opportunities. So, as you know, at Zelestra, we are developers at the core. So M&A is just like a key complement to fit our strategy. So just for you to know, a normal day here at Zelestra in the M&A team, we sometimes analyze the opportunities. So we work through the financial models, looking at returns, trying to see if that made sense or not from a financial perspective and also from a strategic perspective. And after that, if we think that the project or the portfolio makes sense, we coordinate all the process. So we start with the due diligence just to see if there's something that flags. And after that, we coordinate both internal teams, for example, the technical, the legal team, and also external advisors that help us to go through this opportunity.
Okay, so you spend a lot of your day then. So you're in the corporate team. So you're based in the Madrid office. So do you spend a lot of your day speaking to people from other countries, and I mean all of the teams across Zelestra? So you're in a lot of meetings. So you're mainly kind of office based, no?
Yeah, that's it. Because as you know, now the company is in a moment that we want to grow a lot, not only in Europe, but also in the United States. So we are sometimes looking to Germany opportunities. In some other case, we give support to the Spain team. So yes, we have lots of meetings with all the teams, and we just try to support them a lot.
Okay, that's great. And Álvaro, to turn to you. So you've got a specialist role as well. If you could tell us, what that is and what your day looks like as well. And you're helping to build the portfolio and build the growth of Zelestra also, no?
Yeah. So my focus is also, speeding up and going directly to what Paula actually mentioned, to give support to specific teams. For instance, on the technical side, that would be M&A operations. That would also be greenfield opportunities, and scoping just in general the entire technology round base. So we have PV, we have wind, and we have BESS. And the main idea, or at least my role, mainly focuses on making those opportunities tangible and understanding what our internal customer has. For instance, the M&A team or the business development team, they give us a specific plot of land where we could start a renewable project, and we need to understand through various iterations what is the best mix of the design and the technical aspects of, for instance, how much this would cost, how much this would cost to also maintain it, to operate it, and also how much production or energy we're going to get. Because at the end, we specialize in basically creating green energy for our final clients through PPAs. And so the idea is to establish through the technical team not a one-fits-all solution, but more along the lines of a ad hoc, specific, project-specific analysis. And that would also help both in greenfield and, as I mentioned, in the M&A side. It would be important, for instance, to understand if everything that's being sent to us from the vendor actually makes sense, or if it's a go or no-go situation for the project.
So have you always been interested in renewable energy? Did you see that as a career path, and what did you study at university?
So Coincidentally, we actually studied the same degree back in Bilbao. It's business management and also engineering. So it basically gave me at least the growth or the foundations I needed to actually start at Zelestra as an intern 5 years ago and work from the ground up and basically use both the technical side and the economical side in my day-to-day analysis.
Okay, and then Paula, that's interesting. You guys both studied. Were you there at university at the same time as well, or were you in different years?
Different years. Me in a year before.
Okay, but you always had an interest in trying to come into renewables as well. Is that the case, or how did you find your way into Zelestra?
So honestly, in my case, renewable energy became a focus only a few years ago. I grew up in a very finance-oriented environment, so that was always there and has been like part of my background in some sense. So, however, in my case, I've always been really curious on how things actually work more in a technical side. So when I had to choose what to study, I decided to go for both business and engineering. After that, I realized that renewable energy sits right in the middle because it's a sector that is very technical, but it's also very financial. So that was one of my reasons to choose this sector to develop my career. And I think that there is also a key important factor, and it's the impact that it has on the future, right? Because maybe this is something that I figured out once I was already in the sector, but I think that it's important not only to do something that you enjoy, but also that creates an impact in the future. And I think that this sector, that's it.
Yeah, it definitely gives you the opportunities to grow your career in something that's making a difference. No, and I think that's similar. I've been working in energy now for 20 years or so, and I think that's one of the reasons I have stayed in this sector as well, because it's an opportunity to make a difference. Do you remember then your first day when you came in to Zelestra, and what was that like? And then how has your career developed since you came?
Yes, I started in the investments team, first of all. I joined in Bilbao first, well, in Getxo actually. There, my role was focused on analyzing and identifying the pipeline projects portfolio and trying to look at returns, walking through the models and trying to see if the opportunities make sense from a financial perspective. And we were also in charge of trying to include some kind of value levers and upsides to see if the project work or not. And after that, I moved into a more corporate role, also within the investments team. In this case, my role shifted more into looking at the company in a broader perspective. So more specifically, what I was in charge of doing was working on the company's valuation in terms of growth, in terms of geographic expansion. So that helped us to understand where we stood as a company and also where we wanted to be in the future. We were very close with our shareholder, as this was it was very key for the decision making of the company. And after that, after 2 years more or less being there, I moved to the M&A team, which is where I'm now. And I think that this opportunity of moving to the M&A team brings together the two perspectives, right? Because I'm on the execution of the strategy, but I also deep into the details of the projects across different markets, different technologies. So things so interesting.
Yeah, every day is kind of different then. No, there's always a new challenge, a new surprise. And then Álvaro, you started as an intern, no? So do you remember that? Did you have big expectations? Did you expect still to be here? So how has your career developed since you first came in?
So it's changed a lot, that's for sure, because starting as an intern, your expectations obviously are high. Your hunger, at least, or in my case, I had a high ambition, and also the sheer fact of going into a renewable industry and making that tangible impact, as I mentioned, not just for myself, but also and basically giving to something that would give back to society. So I had high expectations. I consider I've fulfilled them entirely, and I'm still overcoming said expectations. The first day I would not even imagine, for instance, living in Madrid. For starters, I also started in Guecho, and just basically the first day was more meeting people. The first day is always you hear 70,000 names and you only have your boss's name in mind, actually, and that's pretty much it. But it also gives you this sensation of the culture behind it, of how it's grown, and also following up with what Paula mentioned, it's grown exponentially in these past 5 years. And I would say the roles changed quite a bit. The intern side, I mainly focused on the fact that I created or maybe optimized internal tools that we use for the explanation I gave earlier regarding the optimization of the different technologies. And I basically evolved into a role where I used said tools and actually had to stand by them in investment decisions, in presentations to external stakeholders, be that, for instance, advisors, or maybe even senior level executives in the company. And so it gives you the sensation that what you say is meaningful, what you created actually is meaningful, and it actually is used through the entire company, not just on the technical side. And it also implies that you're here to stay. So that gave me a lot of continuity, if I say.
And is there one example, maybe, or a couple of examples of situations that you've experienced, or problems that you've overcome, something that's kind of helped you on this journey? Is there any specific examples you can point to?
Most opportunities along, at least in the past maybe 2 years, for instance, have been a product of what I started maybe 3 years ago, because the renewable industry, if it has something specific, it's the fact that the projects take a while to mature and to become something that's tangible, or something that's real, and injecting energy into the grid. And so there's a lot of projects that have started maybe in the 2021, 2020s, even prior to when I was obviously here, because it's a whole team effort. It's not specific to what I've done or what even Paula or specific members have done. And if I would have to point out a specific project, I would say, for instance, the Trujillo project, which we just signed PPA-wise. That's something that's been in development, something that I personally have invested a lot of time during my Zelestra career, I would say. And it's something that once you see it come to fruition is a joy, because it's the fact that every single step you made is coming into this behemoth of a solar plant.
And it must be similar for you then, Paula. Has there been one or two examples of a project that you've delivered, or something that you've done that you've thought, I'm really proud of this?
Yes, well, for example, in the M&A team, or the sector, or that area in concrete, I think that sometimes it's quite difficult, because when you are in the buy side, as there are competitive process, you are competing with other companies. Sometimes you spend a lot of time analyzing an opportunity, going into the due diligence, going into the details, and after that it doesn't come to an end, right? So I remember once, I think that this was like a couple years ago, when the US business unit was establishing, and well, there was a lot of members of the team already there. We had an opportunity to acquire a portfolio there. I moved there to the United States for 3 weeks, more or less, just to be closer to the local team and also to the external advisor that we have. They were based in New York. I think that made a big difference, right, to be there, because in that sense you take decisions like quicker, and also you take more responsibility. And finally we didn't acquire the project, but I think that experience was pretty nice, and we learned a lot also about that market that in that moment was not very known. So yeah.
Fantastic. So you've gone from Getxo to Madrid and via New York, and you've had some interesting experiences. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? If you had to think about where my career would be, will Zelestra support me to get there? What would you love to be doing in 5 years' time?
Well, I think that I want to continue in this sector because I found it very interesting, and I also think that evolves very quickly, and it's a sector where you can continuously be learning new things, new technologies, and also because of the impact that it has on future. I think that I will stay here in the next 5 years, and maybe also focusing on financial areas. I think that something unique at Zelestra is the opportunity that they give you to be able to work across different roles, also between different teams, and I think that it's a way also of learning, no? To be in touch with different peoples and different ways of working.
And how about you, Álvaro, then? So you've been on quite a journey then from your internship to where you are now. What would you like to do? What would the next challenge be for you?
So the next challenge, I think, or at least what I see at least myself doing is basically using those technical tools or using said technical knowledge I've acquired and also applying it to maybe, for instance, upper management or something along the lines of maybe creating those opportunities or understanding what for instance, the final client needs or what the internal team expectations has. I also want to find, or this is obviously more of a solicitation more than anything because you can't sign anything specific, but more along the lines of trying to be more on site or maybe understand like what is the real limitation, or what is, for instance, we see everything on an Excel sheet, but it's what does X involve on site, or what does X involve in the operations and maintenance. So maybe trying to expand my knowledge on that. And also, as actually Paula said, the sheer fact of this sector, not just PV, wind, BESS, but also there's more energy behind it. There's more alternatives. There's more floating solar, for instance, offshore. Wind is coming into play, although still has a long time to go. And maybe other alternatives, for instance, not specific in Zelestra, but like biomethane, just trying to understand what our energy peers are doing and seeing what we can benefit from that side.
I mean, that's interesting. So you talk about technology progress, and AI is obviously something that's on the horizon that is having an impact on every sector. At Zelestra, we're powering the future of AI. Some of our biggest customers are hyperscalers, but we're also really investing in AI internally to apply it to processes, to improve processes. How do you see that in your job over the next few years, and are you excited? Are you worried about some of the challenges, or what are your views on AI?
So I believe there's two ways at least to understand how much it impacts Zelestra or different IPPs, specifically in the renewable sector. And the main is obviously the one that it affects everybody, which is office work, which AI is going to completely change how we work or how much time we invest on creating, for instance, a specific dashboard. We need to, or at least I specifically am trying to find ways to better myself in what I know. So instead of creating the sea of data, of like the rows and rows of spreadsheets, trying to find why this specific input is different to this one, which is the outlier. So understanding the trends, basically, and having that knowledge. That's something that I think impacts any industry as a whole. And then specifically the renewable and what you actually mentioned, which is our different customers in hyperscalers and data centers, they need electricity, they need energy, and they need green energy. And so those 3 steps and where we come in is crucial, I believe, to the fact that there's going to be a high demand for new grid points. There's going to be a high demand for specific renewable projects that are maybe nearby to the site or maybe co-located. And so that is something that we, as a provider of such services, need to basically step up and offer that to our clients.
Paula, on your side, do you see AI already coming into some of the processes that you have in your role, and are you excited about where the technology will go?
Yes, we are starting to use it a lot. I think that is going to impact a lot and on a positive way for sure. For example, in the case of the M&A team, it's going to help us not only to work in a more efficient way, but also coordinating the process better, trying to have all the information that we need. In the case of the due diligence reports, also good to have a kind of agent that helps you try to identify the most important items or risks of each of the projects. So yeah, I think that it's coming to stay, and that we have to know how to use it to take the most advantage as we can.
So both of you guys you've established yourself in the sector and the company. If you had to give a couple of pieces of advice to somebody who's now studying at university and wants to get into the sector, what would you tell them? What were the things that worked for you?
Yeah. So I would say them at first, they have to be always open to learn, because as we have said, this is a sector that evolves quickly, moves fast, and you have to always be curious and learn new things as it's always changing, new regulatory. So you have to be open to it. Then you have to be curious, not just focus on your individual task, but also try to understand the broader perspective and try to understand how the sector works. I think that that has value, because the technical team and the financial team are connected. So it's better if you understand the whole picture. And then be comfortable with a bit of uncertainty, I will say, because as I say, you have to adapt to new changes. So
yeah, no, that's a good point. And Álvaro, what about you? Somebody wanted to come into your role. What advice would you give them?
I would basically say everything that Paula actually just mentioned, and I would add specifically on that uncertainty side, on that being curious, you need to assume once you're starting that you're gonna fail. You are going to start, and you need to let yourself understand that you don't know everything. You're not the smartest person in the room. You need to understand that there's a lot of people that have worked hard, and they have every cent and every penny they have of knowledge is through experience, and it's through basically being there. And so added to that, that uncertainty and that understanding that you need to have room for improvement, you always have room for improvement, is also a more simple side, which is a lot of people, or at least when I started, at least what I mainly did was I just asked, like, what do you do on your day-to-day? What are you doing right now? What can I do to help? Try and understand and be proactive. Like, it is hard, obviously, as an intern to maybe be recognized as somebody that can help. But now with AI, it levels a lot of the playing field. It makes you able to maybe step up and understand and create that data set that I mentioned and learn on the go. So I think the most important parts is understanding that you're not the smartest person. You're going to need experience to get to that point, and understanding that you need to be proactive, and people aren't expecting you to just also ask. People are also expecting you to be the person in the room that says, I'll do that.
And contribute as
exactly.
Well. Yeah. So you've both travelled already in this role. Zelestra is a global company. There's global opportunities in the renewable sector. Is there one place that you would like to work, or any place that you would like to work outside of Spain? It doesn't have to be one of Zelestra's markets, but is there anywhere you think ideally that would be a nice market to go to, and why would you want to do that?
That's a good question. Because work specifically, I think it's different. Obviously, in the past, I've been to Germany. Haven't been to the U.S. With Zelestra at least, but mainly I would say different European markets, for instance, because I think since it's a specific grid that's interconnected and it's related. Well, not related, but it's literally connected between the different countries. For instance, maybe understanding the French mindset versus more nuclear than maybe other green alternatives, understand how that impacts on the market, or maybe even up in the UK where there's a lot of wind and there's also high levels of curtailment, understanding that issue and what we can apply to maybe prevent it in Spain and not have another blackout as we're in the anniversary around now.
Yeah, yesterday, no? So
exactly.
And what about you, Paula? You've already been to the US with Zelestra. Is there anywhere that would be a great place for the M&A world specifically?
I haven't thought about it, but I think that if I had to choose, I would like to go again to the United States. I think that there is a lot of room for renewable energy today there in the United States, a lot of opportunities, and I find it interesting that sector specifically in the United States. So I would say that.
Thank you very much both for joining us today. There was some really insightful discussion. I think you guys have showed that you've had a really interesting career so far, and there's lots of opportunities ahead, and hopefully in Zelestra. Thank you very much. Thank you.